A little after 7. Should I push broadcast?
Let's go.
Oh,
Let's
hit it.
go. All right. All right. There we go. For me, for sure.
I think we're good. Are you ready?
Ready. Let's do this.
Are they ready?
I'm sure they're ready.
All right, I'll tell you what, I cannot guarantee that everything is going to be perfect technologically, but I have two things I can guarantee. One, there's going to be amazing information in this, and two, you're definitely going to be entertained. So this is going to be a really good time. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Kate Lavelle. I've been kind of all over the lacrosse world as far as coaching different levels, working with U.S. Lacrosse, working with players. I'm a mom of a player. I've done coaches training. So I'm just excited to be in here, and really I've brought in kind of the experts to really get on the lacrosse side of it. And so we got Coach Janine Tucker here, Johns Hopkins University. You guys all probably know who she is. You've seen her pretty much everywhere in the lacrosse world. So yeah, really excited. I'm going to let her say hello, and we're not going to waste too much time talking about us because we got meat to dig into, right?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Kate, so much. And hi, everybody. Super excited to do this for you. Over these last few weeks, a lot has happened to all of us. And one thing we realized is there's a lot of people who could use a little bit of information, a little bit of entertainment, and a little bit of hope. So we want to just chat with you about a bunch of different topics over these next couple Thursdays. We've brought some big guns in to help complement Kate and myself. And we're really excited with all the questions that people have sent in. So just hang in there with us. We're just going to play off of each other, and hopefully you'll be really informed.
Awesome. And I'm looking at my Facebook Live, and it was previewing me and not going live. So I just hit go live. So if,
Okay.
So Facebook should be able to see it now.
Yep.
So apologies for that little extra technological glitch, but we should be good on Facebook.
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Okay. So let's dig in here. So just to give you guys an idea of where we're headed, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we're dealing with right now, right? And what all of our players are dealing with, and what are we doing to help them, and what suggestions can we give them? And then we're going to dig into what I know a lot of people are here for, and that is what on earth are the thoughts about recruiting going on right now. So we have two really awesome special guests, former Blue Jays, is that correct?
That is right. Both of them played for me. Yeah.
I love it. So they've gone on to coach at incredible programs. So that's amazing. And they're going to come in and kind of join in on that conversation. So they will be coming in later. So really, Coach T, tell me, you have so many names, so we'll just use them all throughout the broadcast. Sure. Tell me about just some thoughts on wrapping your head around this situation right now.
Oh my Lord. I have a lot of thoughts. This pandemic is difficult, and we are all in some pretty challenging times. It took me a little while, to be honest with you. We were sent home on March 13th, and that's when everything got very real. And it took me a little while to adjust. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening in, no matter where you are in your life, this has been a challenge and difficult. So for me, it didn't go very well early because it was such an adjustment and such a shift. But I got to this point where I had to ask myself, okay, when I look back on this, am I going to be proud of how I handled myself? And that was really something that I think gave me a little swift kick and motivated me. And then I started really focusing on this is a new normal. This is how it's going to be. I have to deal with it. And just wanted to stay connected to my family and my team. So I will tell you, the struggle is real. We're all in it. And one thing that I heard that I wanted to share with everybody is everyone's kind of saying, oh, we're all in this together, which we are. We're all in the same boat. Well, we're not. We're not all in the same boat. We're in the same storm, but not necessarily in the same boat. And we're going to talk about that because, you know, a lot of recruits are wondering, what am I going to be doing to impress college coaches? And some people might have no backyard at all and no wall to be able to bounce a ball off of. Others could have, 5 acres worth of land to use. So just keeping in mind, we are all in this storm together, not necessarily in the same boat, but we are going to make the most of this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are looking to the college programs. You guys were the first ones, surprisingly, to get canceled.
Yes.
High schools are falling behind that. So I know where I am. I'm in Minnesota, and we have been delayed we've been allowed to do video teaching and that sort of thing up until now while we waited to see if we were going to go back to school. Well, today the decision to keep kids home from school the remainder of the year, which has already been made over most of the country. So we just kind of joined that, and they did decide to, cancel the rest of the season. And so we're really looking at, you've had more time to process and really think about what you're going to do with this. So what are you doing? We can't, it looks like, do even any coaching anymore. So what are you doing to stay connected to your team right now?
So that's such a great question. And, we had a little seminar where we were all talking about things we were grateful for. And we had to take 30 seconds and write down things we were grateful for. This was just the other day. We did it as a team. And surprisingly, one of the things that I wrote down that day that I would have probably never written down was technology, because that's how I'm staying connected with my team. So I'm very grateful that I can see my girls over Zoom. So we started out with weekly team meetings that we set up. We have a group that comes in and works with us on emotional and mental toughness called 100% Athlete. They've been meeting with us each week. I've broken the girls down into our classes. So every day of the week is filled. So we'll meet with our seniors, our juniors, our team meeting, our freshmen, our sophomores in smaller groups. I send a Monday motivation, just funny video out to my team, to each of the classes every Monday morning, just to encourage them to crush their day and crush their week. We had a parent Zoom for all of our parents, which was really fun. So using technology to stay connected. And I've learned a lot about Zoom, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, how likely are you to continue using Zoom? I mean, I know when I was coaching college, we did a lot of phone calls. We did one-on-one meetings, but sometimes it was faster to just get those quick phone calls in. I mean, now that you've seen what it's like to have that face-to-face video chat, I think we're all going to be using that a lot more.
100%. FaceTime is going to be where it's at with, recruiting calls, and just the ability to see somebody smiling back at you, and for you to kind of give off that positive energy to them does make a difference. I always tell my sons when they're, talking on the phone, make sure you have a big smile on your face, because people can feel that over the phone. So having FaceTime and Zoom is definitely going to be a part of my life. In fact, my girls taught me about blue light glasses. I had to buy blue light glasses because we've been kind of Zooming everybody all over the place, and so I feel like my eyeballs are going to fall right out. But that's the new thing, is my blue light glasses.
That's awesome. I was just looking at those the other day, so I think that's a good idea. And I want to let you guys know, I'm trying to keep everybody on gallery view, but if you're not on gallery view, it's going to be kind of weird bouncing back and forth from us, so you might want to just go ahead and hit that. And just for fun, if you have done more than, what day of the week are we on here? Thursday?
Thursday.
If you have done more than 5 Zoom meetings this week, go ahead and put your hand up.
Do we have a lot of hands?
Oh yeah. Oh, they're all going up. They're all going up.
That is awesome. I'm proud of you guys. Good job.
Nice job. Oh yeah, I actually think every single hand just went up. So
that is awesome. Well done, people.
We're doing a lot of Zoom meetings. I'm going to throw out a little disclaimer for you guys. So if, we aren't able to interact, well, I can, but since I'm here with Coach, no interactions with any athletes can happen. We've got NCAA rules and compliance and all to think about. So I can see you guys, you can put your hands up, that sort of thing, but there isn't any interaction, and we're just being very conscious to make sure that we're not doing anything we're not supposed to, and that nobody gets in trouble. So there's my disclaimer, my NCAA disclaimer for all of our coaches that come kind of hang out with us. So one of the things that you had mentioned to me is core principles. What are the core principles that you use to just guide through this? Because I think these are so great for our teams and our athletes.
I had actually reflected on that as we were kind of kicking around some ideas, and I'm just pulling from my personal experience. And again, when this whole thing first happened, and I had gone 2 weeks without hugging one of my players or seeing one of my players, it was really hard. And there were a couple of things, there were 5 things actually that I kind of started to wrap my hands around. The first thing was, I had to acknowledge this is real, and it's the way it's going to be, and it's not changing. So just acknowledging the situation that we're in right now, that is unique and different, and it's much bigger than us, right? It's much bigger than me and what I want. The second thing was, I had to accept it, right, Kate? Like with a lot of tough things that we have going on in our lives, we have to accept that this isn't going to change, and it's out of my control. but I had to focus on what I could control. And so the next thing was owning the struggle. Like, there were days that I had to say out loud, I am struggling today. And it's okay that you're going to have days where you're struggling a little bit. But then the last two things are really important. And it took me a little while, and actually a little mishap going from my kitchen to the garage where I ended up with stitches. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, I want to hear this story.
Oh yeah, right. You have to make a choice. Okay, so I had to choose to not want to stay in the negative, to not want to stay in a dark place, to not want to stay feeling sad that I couldn't see my girls or that my season was ended. So I had to make that choice. I am not going to live in this dark place or stay in this dark place. And then the next thing that I found was I need to do something. I need to act, right? So I feel better about myself and what I have going on when I do something, you know, whether it's make sure you make your bed, or write up a seminar like this, or connect with one of my players, or clean something around the house. Yeah,
get out of the sweatpants.
Right? That's right, exactly. There's a feeling and a sense of accomplishment when you get out and do something. And we're going to talk to the kids on this call and people on this call, that when you go and you do something, dance, sing, take a walk, get a workout in, get on the wall, you immediately feel like you just accomplished something and you feel better. So those were the things, like my little progression. I had to acknowledge this is happening. I had to accept it. It's out of my control. I had to own the fact that I was going to struggle some days. I had to make sure that I was choosing the attitude that I want to bring to this whole thing. And then I want to make sure I'm doing something about it.
Yeah, I love that. And, I work with John Gordon and do a lot of training with him. And one of my favorite things that he says is that, it's okay to acknowledge where you are. Positivity isn't about putting on a fake smile and pretending everything's great. You need to acknowledge where you are. It's okay to not be okay. What it's not okay is to live there. It's not okay to go there and to live there. And so, yes, acknowledge it, but then find your way forward and find something that excites you. And this is a great time to try something new.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to learn how to cook. It's not working.
Right.
Well, I want to hear the story. Can I get the story out of you?
Lord. Okay. And then I promise we'll get into the recruiting, good stuff. So when this, again, a few days into this whole thing, I just, was feeling out of sorts, and I'm flying all around my house, probably cleaned closets 3 times, and I was rushing from the kitchen. I had a box of something that we had gotten for our team. And so I was all excited, and I was like going 100 miles an hour, and I was rushing from the kitchen into my garage, completely missed the step, went down hard. I crushed my lower back. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's getting better. It looks amazing actually, but I had to get stitches. So I sliced my arm open. And
you're not supposed to go to the hospital right now. Isn't that the threat?
That's what my brother and sister said.
I keep telling my kids, I'm like, do not get hurt. I'm not taking you.
That's what my brother and sister were like, we're not going to the hospital. And then they looked at it like, oh, we're going to the hospital. Yeah. So, you know what that taught me though? And my sister said it like 5 seconds after I, wiped out. She said, Janine, the universe is telling you to slow down. Yeah. And that really resonated with me. And so I'm trying really hard to slow down, be present, be where my feet are, and not feel like I have to get 1,000 things accomplished in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I've seen that hustle because I've been to your camps. So I've seen the amount of times that you get from your office and back down and all the piles of areas. So I can actually picture that entire scenario. Yep. I love it.
But we're all good now.
That's great. Okay, so here's what I want to do, because I think that people really want to talk about this recruiting stuff. So let's bring in our special guest. I'm so excited that we have this, and I'm thinking that in the future, this is something that we're going to continue and get more mindsets and more thought processes, because honestly with recruiting, and you can tell me what you think, but I think everyone's gonna have a different approach, and you guys are gonna have an opinion now on how you think it's gonna look, and that may change as we see how this kind of fleshes out as we move through it.
100% right.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm gonna bring them in. I forgot that I have to do that.
Yes. So everybody who we're bringing in are 2 of my former Blue Jays. So Sammy Cermak Interlocchio is now the assistant coach at Lehigh, and she's absolutely phenomenal. And Colleen McCaffrey is the assistant coach at the University of Virginia. And Colleen and Sammy and I had a really great conversation a few days ago just about the recruiting process. And we were just kicking things around and sharing stories. And I realized that they just have such valuable insight. Hi, Colleen.
Yes.
There's Colleen. There's Sammy. Hi, Sammy.
Hi, guys.
They have such valuable insight. And so I said to Kate, how about some special guests on our webinar? And so both Sammy and Colleen very graciously accepted, and we're super pumped to have them. Thanks for coming on, you guys.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Coach Tucker, I am going to let you take this and start talking about recruiting, because I am all ears. And being a high school coach, being a parent of a high school player, I get to see the other side of this. And I am hearing the questions that are coming. And a lot of it is, I didn't have a season. This was my maybe their junior year, right? The big one for them, or even, sophomore year, going into those dates that are coming up that are really important. And they're thinking, I thought this was going to be the year I got seen. And now I'm looking and there's very few tournaments. We don't know what's going to happen. What do I do? Do I just send emails? I just don't know what to do. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. One, on the timeline of, are things going to change? Is September 1st going to look like September 1st, do you think? And what on earth can they do to, and I'm going to talk a little bit after you guys talk about some ideas I think club programs can do to support, but go for it.
Sure. Well, I think Sammy and Colleen and I do have a lot of thoughts, and it's just our opinions, and we just want to kind of, first of all, I think, tell everybody to take a collective breath. We can all acknowledge that the recruiting landscape absolutely has changed. It's just going to look a little different, but it's still going to happen. And that's something that I want to make sure everyone, hears me say, is that even just after this weekend, there was a lot of stuff going back and forth about different tournaments and when they're going to run and who's running them. And I think everybody, had a collective freak out. And then we took a breath. And what I would like to share, and I'm going to, certainly ask Sammy and Colleen their opinions, is not only are recruits and their families feeling this pressure and change and adversity, but so are the college coaches. So we are very much in this storm together. And right now, nobody's getting a leg up on anybody. We're in a dead period until May 31st. There are no tournaments scheduled right now, as far as we know, that are guaranteed to happen, because there's so many things that are out of our control. And so I think if we can all recognize that, yes, the recruiting landscape has changed. It's a bit of a hot mess right now, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a process. I believe that everyone's going to have a process. It's just not going to look the way you thought. It's not going to feel the way you anticipated. And that's not necessarily like the kiss of death, but it is change. And just like we've all had to change, how we're working and staying at home, it's not easy. But I do know for all of the recruits out there, you're going to have to get creative. And I'm going to let Sammy and Colleen just give their quick hit on just the recruiting landscape right now and their thoughts, and then we'll dive really deep into some specifics. So, Kyle, can you tell me, what you think about the recruiting landscape right now?
Yeah, I mean, we all talked about it the other day. I think there are a lot more questions than answers right now. And I think all college coaches across the board, we're trying to adapt not only with our own teams, but how we are going to find these classes that we ultimately will fill. And you hit on it, the timeline's going to change. With the cancellation of all the summer tournaments, we're not going to be able to see these athletes that we had planned on. However, that September 1 will look different. And I think it will look different for the athletes, but also our process of how we're going to find them and what they can be doing this summer to be seen by us.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think you're dead on. Sammy, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, same here. I think the three of us were kind of all on the similar page of what we were thinking about it all. I think it's mostly just a fear of the unknown for all of us, coaches and players. And I think, totally agree with you guys. It's just going to be about adapting and adjusting and finding a new timeline, but there will be a timeline. So that fear of it won't happen, like Colleen said, we have to fill our classes, and it's just going to be a big adjustment. But hey, these kids might be ahead with their adaptability skills at the end of this. So, and far ahead maturity wise going through something of this magnitude. So
that's such an excellent point that you bring up, because, you know, when we talk as coaches about players who stand out for us and players who really are big time impactful players on our program, they are the ones that are very tough and very strong and have the ability to adapt and pivot and change. And so what we're all going through right now is hopefully going to help us all strengthen those skill sets. Something that I was thinking about that I'd love to get your guys' opinions on is video. You know, there's a lot of sports out there that rely heavily on video for recruiting, and where we relied heavily on going to tournaments to see recruits play, we're going to have to adapt. And maybe we might be going back to some of the video for the 2020s, the 21s, the 22s that we had in the past to maybe, you know, get a baseline on somebody. And what are your thoughts on maybe some things that recruits can do now with their video capabilities? They're home, they have to get creative. What are some things that you guys would like to see them do as far as having themselves be able to stand out from the rest?
Right, yeah, and we touched on this a little bit the other day when we were talking, and if the girls are going to send us videos, we want to see them pop, and we want to see that initial athleticism, and, you know, stick skills are one thing, ability to dodge, and obviously we would love to see them play in person, and in a game is just what I prefer. However, right now, like you said, CT, some girls don't even have a backyard to throw in, so they are going to have to adapt a little bit. And if those girls have film from November or last summer, that's always something that we can return to and watch, because we aren't going to see them live right now.
yeah, I completely agree. I think even like sometimes before this whole situation happened, like if a coach was talking to me about a kid and I'm like, I kind of remember her, but I need to go back and watch. Like I always type their little name in Google and I'm like, okay, this kid. And if a YouTube video pops up, I'm like, oh, my life is so easy. Like I just get to watch a 1 minute little hitter and I'm like, oh, I remember this kid. She's a rock star.
Right.
So I think that maybe going back now that they have the time and putting together some of their highlights and like their 12 best plays in a 1 minute video, like that's great. Like they have the ability to do that now and kind of use this time to do that. And I think all of us are in the position where we now need to get creative with how we watch on film. Like I was like, I'm with Call, I'd rather watch them in person. And now I'm like, now I need to really start staring at film and realizing what can I see, what can I find? So again, it's adjustment period for us as well. And I think the more creative we can get and rely on technology, like we are so blessed that we are so far advanced in the way we are with technology right now. So let's use it to our advantage and find ways that we can make it help us. So
I'm wondering about the quality of video, and just as someone who had to watch, you know, a lot of video as well, I feel like before, if somebody sent you a not so great, I mean, you think about one of the videos where they send it to you, you open it, and it doesn't have that nice little highlight thing, and you're trying to read the numbers, and they're really far away, and you're just kind of like, I can't do it. I can't find them unless you have it on a huge screen. I think quality of video is going to be really important now, but if you don't have quality of video, and you can correct me, but I'm thinking if you're just don't have it, not everybody can pay for that extra video or have someone come get it, that, you know, adding something of you training, you know, you're showing a sprint, showing something that you're doing on your own, so that it's just adds a little bit extra to what you can see.
Well, you know what I would say, Kate, and I'd love to hear Colleen and Sammy's opinions, but I feel like everybody has some sort of a smartphone. And so if you can get a little brother or a mom or a dad to stand still with your smartphone and video you in the backyard, I've had several recruits send us videos, and they have a small space in their backyard, but they've got cones set up, their change of direction's awesome, watching their footwork, their follow through, they're doing it over and over. So you see there's that dedication there. So that piece of being creative is really important. And a lot of times what video does is it sparks our interest to the point where we then write a note next to that kid's name in our recruiting database, and we will go back to then find her in a tournament. And again, the timeline's going to get pushed back, everybody. Like, it's not necessarily over, it's just different. So instead of September 1st, maybe people feeling like they can move forward quickly with recruits this year, it's going to be much slower. And, you know, for some 21s, it's going to go back to the day when I was playing and you made your decision, maybe in the fall or the winter of your senior year. And you still made your decision, and you still found that school, and you still found a home. So I do think that if we can appreciate that the timeline's getting pushed back, being able to be creative with the backyard ball and the change of direction and the sprinting and the acceleration. I think that's going to be cool. And I've loved seeing some of these videos. Colleen, Sammy, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say you hit it right on the head. I mean, we got a video the other day of a girl playing in her backyard, and granted, I wrote her name down. I made sure I remembered it, and I think we talked about it in our next staff Zoom call, and we mentioned her name. We're like, "Oh, you saw that?" And I was like, "You know what? I was impressed." Granted, that caught my attention. It's not like I'm sold on the kid. I'll obviously need to see her play again or live in a game, but it caught my attention, and I think that's what we're asking the kids to do this summer is to play with the intention of getting better, but also just to play in your backyard and have fun. I think that's another important thing, is to use this time to learn to love the game again, but also get better, because we will have to fill these classes, but they shouldn't feel that pressure when no one else is going out there and recruiting. So.
Is there, can one of you, one of the questions that had come in was, do you have anything specific for goalies that you'd like to see film-wise? Is there anything that kind of helps you see how they do?
Anything and everything hand-eye coordination. You know, I think that there are lots of small-sided hand-eye coordination drills that goalies can do that can help them stand out. Obviously, if they have a highlight film of themselves, you know, in games, so we can see their athleticism and their positioning, their angles. You know, I love goalies that are pointing and talking and, you know, directing with things like that. So, you know, Sammy, Colleen, what else would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's so much on the internet these days, or on people's social media pages. Like, look up a school that you're really interested in. They probably have some drills that they do. Or like, I learned so much from guys lacrosse, and I think that especially goalkeepers, like that's definitely a position. Like, there's so many great goalie coaches out in the guys lacrosse world. Like, if you look at any other Instagram pages or search them on YouTube, like you'll find a ton of drills that you can do and mimic. And I think the great benefit about filming it for a college coach is that you're probably getting a little bit better if you're doing those drills every single day. And I think, like, totally agree with, I forget which one of you said it, because you guys say similar things. Must be that Blue Jay in us. But it's all about, I think, like, individual growth right now in this time, like, worldwide. Like, I'm trying to grow and be a better version of myself. Like, I think we're kind of all in that mindset. And I think these kids too, like, just use this time that you have right now. Like, if you're spending 45 minutes a day in your backyard playing lacrosse, you're probably getting a little bit better every single day. And you're putting yourself in a better position when we finally get out of this unknown world and we're back in our normalcy of recruiting. Like, you might be a little bit ahead of where you were in June. So I think that that's just something that we can all kind of focus on right now.
I know there's a lot of questions about, oh, I'm sorry. I should say, I know there's a lot of questions about, you know, tournaments this summer and what's going to play and what's not. And I know nobody really has any answers to that. I mean, we're all kind of speculating on what tournaments are going to go, you know, and if coaches are going to show up and everything. And I think to clear the area, I think you all know if there's tournaments out there, college coaches are going to, you know, get a chance to see people play. You know, if it's safe and for everybody to get out there. So I don't think that's going to be a concern. It's just going to be when can we get out there and kind of see everybody. So I'm sorry, Coach Tucker, what were you?
No, you're right. It's just a matter of when. But Sammy, I think the flip side is also true of what we've been talking about. You know, you're going to find out during this time how truly important your sport is to you. And if you really do want to play in college, if you really do want to take that next step up, you are going to figure out how to get out into the backyard or on a wall or using a small space or getting creative. And you're going to be hungry to grow as a player, because those who are sitting back and just chilling or, you know, not really able to kind of get themselves motivated, they will fall behind. It's just the harsh reality of it. And, you know, here we are as college coaches, we're trying to find dedicated, intense, you know, passionate, great team culture players. And so for those who take the time to train, film it, send it out, reach out to us, email, call, you're separating yourself. So that's a little thing I do want to share. And we did get a couple questions that came in. And one of the questions was, how can we stay fit and keep up our skills when we can't train with our team? And I always think of that quote, you know, it's not what you're doing when everyone's watching you, it's what you're doing when you're all by yourself. And so what are some suggestions you guys might have for people with respect to training, even though they can't be there with their team?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always learned, or maybe probably learned from you at some point, that it's actually not even the hours you put in with your team that really end up making the difference. It's actually the hours that you put in away from your team, behind the scenes, and just kind of trusting that everyone on their team is doing their job when they're not together. Because then when you are together, it's like, heck yeah, now we're together. Like, let's show each other where we are and be super proud of what the work we put in. So yeah, I think that the time that you're actually spending right now might be actually more important than the minutes that you are spending with your team to just keep up on that level. So there's so much you can do, whether it's lacrosse drills or just running outside. Like, now the weather's getting nicer. Short sprints for defense. Like, there's so many things you can do. And again, like, I think there's just so much in your hands, like on your guys' little smartphones, that you can find a ton. So do your homework, find your favorite player. Like, I was saying this to someone, like, if you love Colleen McCaffrey, like, I guarantee there's some Colleen McCaffrey highlights, and you can find some things that you want to do and emulate. Or all the girls that are on the US level, like, if you go to any of their Instagram pages, they have a ton of drills. And I think one of the amazing things about the lacrosse world is how just nice and approachable like everyone is. And if you reached out to someone at that level, like, I guarantee they would come back with, here's what I did every day. Like, here's a couple of drills I did. And that's the great thing about lacrosse culture, is that it's really tight knit and people want to help each other. So I think use what's in your hands and reach out to people.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And the social media aspect, even something they can do now to get better is watch film. Like you said, use YouTube to type in USA Women's Lacrosse and watch a game. I think that's something that, like, high school players forget, is that in their seasons, they also build their lax IQ. And if they're not watching or playing lacrosse, they should at least type in and watch, like Sammy said, some of the best players. You don't have to watch a full game. Watch Taylor Cummings highlights, and you'll learn a lot in 5 minutes. So I think that's another thing they can do is, like CT always says, do your homework during this time, but do your homework when it comes to watching lacrosse, but also learning more about these universities that you might want to attend. I know this is a time that we should be watching you, but you can learn more about our schools if you just go to Google and spend some time there. So
this is a great time to learn leadership too. And I know that, especially females, they don't get as much leadership training as maybe they could have. And so this is a great time for high school kids whose coaches have just been told, especially out here, that they can't work with the players. That doesn't mean that you can't do anything. You actually can do everything that you could do before with your coach, but you have to step up and do it yourselves. Mm-hmm. So that means that somebody can take initiative and say, if you don't have a GroupMe or a group chat account, form one. And if you have brand new players, then ask them to get on a video chat and show them how to hold their stick and how the game works. And you guys can exchange different defense systems that you've learned, maybe with other teams that you've played with, and just kind of come together and connecting. And all of that can be done by the players. And I think, honestly, the worst thing that you can do for your mental health is to walk away from your team right now because you can't play an organized sport. And back when I was growing up, organized sports was far and few between. There was a lot more let's hit the backyard. As someone who grew up in Annapolis and a lacrosse family, every family reunion, everywhere we went, there were lacrosse sticks in our trunk because that's just what we did. And now that we don't have an organized sport part, that doesn't mean you can't go out and play or initiate, some free play stuff or some ideas. So just think about ways that you can step up as a leader. And I know coaches, I know you guys are looking for kids that will step up, that have a voice, and that aren't afraid to kind of organize and get people excited and ready to play.
I totally agree. And, something that is a reality of the situation with the year being lost, I think we should touch on the fact that players are getting years of eligibility back, so something else that we're trying to handle and deal with as college coaches is the fact that some of our seniors are able to come back and take a fifth year. And actually the NCAA did that so that whole 4-year group, everyone who was affected in this 2020 crisis, gets an extra year of eligibility. So I realize that's probably making some recruits and families very nervous, right?
Yeah,
Thinking,
oh my probably, gosh. Yep.
Yeah, there's going to be fewer spots. That was a question that someone had sent into us, and it's a very valid question. And the answer is, yeah, this is a hot mess. And, we are trying to make strong decisions, which are best for our programs. Coaches are not trying to rush those decisions, just like they're not trying to rush into, having a tournament when it's not safe. I think that's something that we saw from our coaches organization is we want to make sure that everyone can be safe when we get back to these recruiting tournaments. And now we have to really plan. And so again, what I would advise everyone listening that is in the recruiting process, no matter where you are, 20, 21, 22, you just have to think about what's best for you. And I want you to have options. So I want you to apply to a bunch of different schools. I want you to reach out to a bunch of different colleges. I want you to be brave and video yourself and send that video to a bunch of different colleges. And just know that you may hear back, you may not. Keep plugging away, and that your process is going to happen just a little bit later. And it will, yes, the fifth years for the next couple of years are going to have an impact, but it's going to be different for every school. So try not to make broad assumptions that, my spots are gone, there's going to be no spots. No, that's not true. There will still be plenty of spots. However, it may not be the two schools that you have narrowed yourself down on. You might have to broaden your scope right now. And I just know for my two boys, I always want them to have options in life. So Sammy, Colleen, what do you think about that as far as the extra years of eligibility?
Yeah, I mean, I think with this additional year, a lot of institutions are somewhat in a quandary with their roster size going up and scholarship limits and operating budgets. I mean, if we didn't have our season, and there are impacts over the summer and financial impacts of what's happening in the fall. So I think a lot of the recruits aren't really thinking about that. They're thinking about, what about me? What am I going to do? So, and I think it's different for every institution, and they kind of have to understand that. But I think things are going to look a little bit different given this additional year of eligibility. And for every single school, if say every single senior came back, that will look different. If some seniors don't come back at all, that will look different for others. And given what I said before with the size limits and the budgets, things are going to look different for each school, I think.
Sammy, what do you think, babe?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you guys are saying. I think at the end of the day, it's different for every single school. And it's just like more of the unknown that the more you just like have your brain on it and focus on something that is kind of outside of all of our control. I think that there's a ton of stuff that has had an impact because of this pandemic. And that's just one of the trickle down effects. And again, like at CT, like we're in the storm, but we're going to get through it and we're all going to be together. But I think back to your point, CT, about keeping your options open, I think another big thing that people can do right now is having like the raw, honest conversations with their parents about like, I don't know, my mom or dad might have said it to me at some point, like, will you like Hopkins even if lacrosse is taken away from you? Like, what if you get hurt? What if you don't love it anymore? What if you quit? Like, will you still love that school? And I was like, yes, like it's the one for me. I will love that school. So I think take lacrosse away. Like it just got stripped from all of us. Like, are you still really happy where you were? Like, do you still love the school you're at? And I think so doing your homework outside of the lacrosse program at each school and finding out, okay, what's important to me? Do I want high academics? Do I want top 20 lacrosse? Do I want a D3 school, smaller schools, or I want a city school? Like you guys can get those answers now and kind of like flip the script, CT, like you were saying, back to old school recruiting is knowing, okay, these are actually my 8 academic schools I love. And now let's see, do they balance? Or am I going to find out they balance and people like me in January when we can now recruit again, or fall, whenever it is? So kind of doing that homework, I think, will help everyone be in like a really great position with having like, these are my 10 options, and now let's see how the lacrosse works out with it.
I think it's important too that just in remembering that having NCAA eligibility doesn't mean every single senior is going to decide they want to pay for another year of school. I think a lot of seniors had a job lined up, they were ready to go do something. And that's, I don't think it's not like NCAA said, okay, you guys are all guaranteed your scholarships if you come back, or you're guaranteed to have a spot over some younger kids that are coming your way and you had an ACL 2 years ago. I mean, there's no guarantee that any of these seniors are going to, come back and keep all those spots. So I think many of them will probably take advantage of that. But realistically, I think in a lot of high school kids' minds, they're thinking all of the seniors are going to stay, and they're doing the math and going, there's nothing left for me. And I just don't think that's the case.
And Kate, I know we can move on to another topic, but just to wrap that part up, you're 100% right. So for this class, this senior class now, the 2020 group, if they come back, the NCAA did lift the scholarship restrictions. And so if a school can afford it, then they can choose to fund some players, most likely not all. It's not reality. And also moving forward for the rising juniors, sophomores, freshmen, when it comes to be their time to make a decision, that's where Sammy, Colleen, and I will tell you, coaching staffs, they're not going to have a blanket, sure, you can all stay, we can't afford that. That's going to be coming out of scholarship budgets for those schools that are able to offer scholarships, or roster sizes. There are really raw, tough, major life conversations that are going to be coming down the pike. And I think for all the high schoolers out there and their families, try not to assume that, that whole group's coming back. That there's so many other factors that go into it. So hopefully that can take a little pressure off of everyone, so they realize that, yes, a couple may be able to come back, but it's not going to be large chunks of over the next 4 years. That's just not realistic at all. Colleen, Sammy, do you agree, disagree?
Agree.
Cool. Good stuff.
Well, I tell you what, why don't you tell me a little bit about, let's start with, and I'm going to leave you guys up if you don't mind. Well, we'll pull you into this too, because I really want to hear one, for our seniors in high school who have just been given a devastating blow, and tell me a little bit about how your college seniors who maybe aren't coming back, or or haven't decided, how are they handling this, and how are they able to retain that role as a leader for the rest of the team when they're kind of devastated at the same time? Any ideas that we can pass along for those high school seniors?
Kyle, Sammy, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, so with our group, like CT said earlier, we've been doing those weekly Zooms and the calls and the FaceTimes and everything like that. And I think one of the major discussions that we had was a vulnerability chat, where we, like CT said, discussed one thing that we're grateful for, but we opened up and said what we're really struggling with. And the seniors led that, and they started off with saying what they're truly struggling with. And I think opening up with that vulnerable piece was something that the rest of the girls, the younger girls, can connect with. And then it just made us closer. And I think that the fourth year is setting that example of explaining, like CT said, it's okay to struggle a little bit right now, because a lot of people are, but having the unit of a team to get through that is kind of what helps the younger girls, and they might not know that they need it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think just back to like what CT started talking about, it like just be creative. I think there's like silly little things that you can do. Like we did, like some schools have done like virtual senior day celebrations, or like we did when we heard our season was over, we did like a senior day celebration on the field. Like, I don't know, I just think that there's so much to celebrate. I mean, it's just not just about 1 year. Like, I think that was something that our seniors were kind of like, I mean, obviously everyone, it's like a grieving process. You're like crying one day, you're happy the next day, you're like vulnerable the next day, then you're crying again. Like, and then now we're at this, like, okay, this is, I'm accepting it. Like, this is our new normal. So I think that that's where they are now, but going through that grieving process is okay. So like, it's okay to have your down days. I think Kate, you said that when you were talking about your little John Gordon quote, but I think just then afterwards, like finding ways to celebrate, like it's 4 years. It's not just that senior season that got taken away. Like, you had those growing pains, you were with that team, and you still are, even though you're not together, you're connected virtually, and just finding ways to do that. I think it gets you through your weeks. Being able to celebrate those moments and kind of think back on memories. Like, our team went through memories of each senior and was vulnerable, saying like how much they meant to each other. And I was like, it was my heart. Like, I was like, this is why we are in sports. Like, it was amazing. Seeing 18 to 22-year-olds tell each other how much they mean to each other. I was like, I'm going to cry. So I think just telling each other, like, you mean this much to me. Like, everyone on our team was like, I'm so grateful to have lacrosse. Like, it's bringing out these emotions in me. Like, how lucky are we? So agree with both with Colin and CT, like, find ways to be grateful and vulnerable, and you'll get through it.
That was huge. I think everybody needs to grasp this. I think we need to send it out later. And kind of an angle that I hadn't been thinking about, but is so obvious now in front, which is, this is a celebration of 4 years. And think about the lesson that it's giving to the freshmen. And that is, if you look back and you lose your 4th year, are you going to be proud and excited to remember what you did in your first 3? And are you, really appreciating what you put in? Because we don't know. I mean, we had a pandemic, but it could be an ACL. It could be something else, that takes you out for your career or your season. And so really using that time, and I love that. I love that, celebrating the whole thing and not focusing on the way that it kind of went out. That's great.
Yeah, I love my Blue Jays. They're so smart.
Tia, any thoughts on your seniors and what you guys did?
Yes, I think that, for our seniors, and Colleen and Sammy will say the same thing, they are the team leaders. No matter what their playing time is, no matter what their role is, they are the team leaders. And so it was actually kind of cool for our team to rally around them in their moment when it all kind of went down early, to see how much strength that our seniors were deriving from the younger players and their peers. And then once we had, like Sammy was saying, a chance to really adjust, the seniors kicked right back into their leadership roles, and they were on their own, reaching out to their teammates, making sure they were staying connected with each other, making sure that their families were still staying connected. So I guess the other thing that we talked about for our seniors is that what they're in right now, what they're experiencing, whether they know it or not, or like it or not, it is absolutely better preparing them to go either into the real world, which many of them are getting these amazing jobs and making us all so proud, or to be able to come back and handle a 5th year as an even more seasoned veteran and leader. So while we may not like what we're all in right now, it is absolutely building strength. It is building fortitude. We are learning skill sets that are going to translate later in life. And I think at the point now, my seniors are really realizing that, and it's resonating with them. And it's something that they are going to be able to look back and say they were very proud of how they handled themselves during this pandemic.
Awesome. And so you guys have done some really fun stuff, because I would expect nothing less from you. I already got to watch your video of going around with the Easter Bunny to all over the place, which was the best. And that was your brother, right?
Yes, that was
She put her brother in a bunny costume, you guys, and dragged him all over the place, and then filmed it, and then gave him a lacrosse stick. So that entertained me a lot. So that was awesome. But so I know you guys did fun stuff. Please tell me what you guys have done to keep it fun and stay connected over the time.
Sammy, Kyle, do you guys have any fun?
Yeah, have you carried what you did as a Blue Jay into your new role? Like, what are you guys doing? I know you wouldn't have gone there if you couldn't.
It's scary sometimes, the things that we realize we take with us. It's actually terrifying. But we did.
You become your mother. You become your coach too.
Yeah, seriously. I think I won that. I think that was my superlative award. Most likely to become Coach Tucker. And here I
love it. I love it. Go Sammy.
We did a little email chain where you passed it on, and you talked about what's the weirdest thing you've done over this quarantine, or like you had to ask the next person a question, and it got really fun within our team. So that's totally something that you guys, these kids listening, that you could do with your team. It was super fun, and you passed it on, and it was getting a little crazy and weird, and making everyone entertained. And I'm sure every team has had their crazy, weird fun.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing we're going to do, we're waiting till finals are over, because the girls are in finals right now, but photo scavenger hunt, what they can do with their families, taking walks, bike rides, or runs. So they'll get points for everything that they do, but they have to take a picture of it, and each thing is a different point for like 2 cats, or you see a lacrosse goal, and then videos or TikToks are going to be 10 points. So it's going to be a challenge within their team families, but also their quarantine family. They can participate. So just something that they're going to do after finals, to stay connected with photos, because they're always on their phones anyway. So
I love that. And I love the pictures. We were kind of doing that with my team, and it's like, who can find the most unique animal/insect while you're going for a walk, or the craziest animal picture. And you got some weird stuff back. So it's really fun. So, all right, Coach Tucker, what are you guys doing over there?
So we threw a couple challenges out to our team. My sister and I painted rocks, and we put like fun, uplifting messages on some rocks that we stole from under my deck. And we went all around our neighborhood and put them on people's mailboxes. So that was really fun, and I think people really appreciated finding just a little treasure with an uplifting message. And then my sister's super creative, and she put construction paper hearts all over our front door, and I think she had joy and hope. She cut out letters for joy and hope, and our whole front door has all these bright, colorful hearts and hope and joy over it. And then our team did a little stick work challenge where they filmed themselves and they sent their stick work challenge in where, you know, one girl's passing the ball and somebody else is catching it. And that was really fun. We have a great media guy that helped us put that together. And the last thing we're trying to do is we're trying to put out every so often 3 things, just a picture to make you smile, a quote to uplift your spirit, and then a video of some sort to help you kind of learn and grow, like a drill or something that we like to do. So we're committing to doing that as well so that people can rally around each other and use this time, like Sammy was saying, to like, let's improve ourselves, right? Let's make sure that when we're this is in our rear view mirror, we're looking back and we're saying, I'm a better version of myself because I use that time really wisely.
And I think, you know, whether you are, you know, able to meet with your coach on a Zoom, or if you're not, I still encourage you to meet with your team anyway. And so I know you had some good ideas. I'm going to throw some of those out there, some of the ones that I had too. So if you're having a Zoom, you can have a costume contest. You can do weird hat. You can, you know, who's got the best unibrow? You could like marker your own unibrow in there, maybe have a little contest. Crazy hair day, fun background day. So a lot of different things you can do with that kind of that Zoom meeting that you have with each other. I think to kind of just draw out the fun. You can even do, you know, do fun prizes or, you know, whatever you want to do. Or you could all have your pet be sitting there for that day and they have to guess who matches the pet. You know, whose dog is that? So anyway, anything that you can do to kind of keep that fun going, I think is really important and good for the team.
Kate, I just looked up and I did see that we had I know that you had said we had some questions that had come in earlier, and I think what a lot of people are still asking and want some clarity on is, are coaches going to go to recruiting tournaments in 2020, you know? And so one thing's for sure, if there are events that are going to be held and the players are going to be safe and the families will be safe and the coaches will be safe, coaches will be going because that is our livelihood. We need to go and evaluate talent. What I want to share with everyone though is if, let's say, there are no tournaments in the summer, right? Like that are able to be run for whatever reason, the tournament can't be run this summer. Then what you do is you take that breath and you recognize, okay, let's focus on the fall and we'll see if fall tournaments are run. But to answer your question, if whether they are like our coaches organization tournaments or not, yes, if a tournament can be put on and can be run safely, college coaches are going to be able to watch and evaluate players. But the other flip side of this is, I know like our coaches organization, the IWLCA, there are brilliant people running that organization and in that organization, and they're thinking way outside the box in how we can be creative if, you know, the government or these mandates are not lifted. And so maybe if there's something that says there can only be 50 players, you know, at a time, then what we're talking about is maybe club teams get together and they film themselves playing each other because, you know, staying within the mandates. And then that film will get sent to the IWLCA and then they'll send it out to the college coaches. These are just some things that are being kicked around and they're open for any and all ideas from their membership. And trust us, we want to be out there. We want to be out there watching players and evaluating players, but it's not going to be at the cost of somebody getting sick or it being unsafe. That's not what coaches are interested in. So I think that if you know, restrictions get lifted and there are tournaments, and you know, also if schools are allowed, if this fall, let's say Lehigh is allowed to run a clinic with 60 people or less, they're going to be running clinics. And if Lehigh is a favorite school of yours, you go to that clinic, right? And so, and then, you know, go ahead and multiply that exponentially with all the college programs that are out there. Something I want to tell the audience is there are 117 Division I schools. I think it's like almost 400 Division III schools. I think 100 and some Division II schools. Like, there's a lot of schools out there. So again, your process might look a little different, but you're still going to have a process. Sammy, Kyle, is there anything you can add to that about people worrying that college coaches aren't going to go to events if they're being held?
Yeah, I mean, if it's safe for us to go, we will be there. If our university says we're allowed to go out recruiting, if our governor says we are free to leave our homes, we're going to go do our jobs, which is to recruit. But if it is not safe, then we can't go. And I think that we don't know. And I think that's hard because they don't know either when they'll get to play. But once they're going to be playing, we're going to be able to go watch. So,
Sammy, how you feel?
Agree. I'll
Yeah.
be there. If I can be there, I'll be there.
Awesome. And we have some more recruiting questions. We could probably carry them into our next one. If you want to grab, Coach Tucker, if you want to grab this one real quick, just because it came from somebody in here. As far as communication goes, now that everything is going to emails and sending videos, is there a preferred amount of communication? Like, when are they annoying you and when are they not showing you that they're interested? What's that sweet spot for you?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So I think that it's just trying to be reasonable. I always joke that, if you're emailing a coach every day, that's probably getting to be stalker status. You might not want to go there. But certainly in this time, I would encourage you to stay on a coach's radar. And one thing that I would share with everybody is that we get like hundreds of emails. And so sometimes it's challenging to sift through all of them, but we will get through them as a staff. And so just knowing that there's a young lady out there who is corresponding on a consistent basis, every few weeks, every couple weeks, and Sammy and Colleen, you can let me know what you guys think. It certainly lets you know that they're very interested. And what happens is that gets on our list. And when that club team is playing, or we know that that player is at an event, we will make it a point to try to watch them. And then you got to figure out where they fit in your hierarchy, right? Just because you're contacting a coach and demonstrating that you love their school doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get recruited by that school, but you still have to try. And that's why I think Sammy was talking earlier about having nowadays, given the situation we're in, a broader list. So if you were focused on 7 schools before, I'd make it 17. Right? And that's a little more work, but that's what I would say.
Are they looking for, if they're sending, consistent check-ins, are they looking for a response that says, we're interested in you? Because I know you can't respond to all of those. Or is it just keep sending them? And, at what point do they say, okay, the school's obviously not interested in me?
I think certainly the September 1st date comes into play. If you are able to have that back and forth conversation, September 1st of your junior year, then that's important. Again, it's hard to not hear back from a coach, and it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and you consistently send information. Pick up the phone. If you want to try to get a phone call, be prepared for what the answer might be. Hey coach, I was trying to get to you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. But hey, listen, I need to see you more. You're not as high on our radar right now, but hang in there. You just have to kind of be prepared because the conversation can go a lot of different ways. But what I would say is that once September 1st happens, I think recruits will know when they're on a coach's list, right? Because we have the ability to correspond at that point. Colleen, Sammy, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with the 22s, we can't communicate back right now. So as if they're sending us an email every day, they're not going to get a response. I mean, we have to wait. We'll follow the rules. And I do think even maybe this September 1st, it might look a little bit different. We might have to say, hey, thank you for your interest, but we actually have never seen you play and we need to know if we like you or not. So I think it's going to look a little bit differently this year, but I think with the, like CTU said, with the 21s who we can correspond with, like just to be patient and to be ready for, like Sammy had said, that raw, honest conversation right now, definitely that we might not be interested if they are that 21.
Sammy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think over communicating is probably not necessary. Like sometimes people, well, I know it's irrelevant now, but when tournaments do come back, like we get the game time changes too. So like sometimes people will email being like, hey, my games got moved to from field 8 to field 10. Like if you already emailed us earlier in the week, like you're on our radar and we know that stuff. But I do think, like, I agree with CT with that broader list. Like, actually, if you want to hear from a school on September 1st, you should probably send them at least one email during the summer, because like sometimes we'll look back and be like, we really like this kid. And then we're like, wait, she's never emailed us in this whole 4 years. Like, we should probably, like, she's not interested. So then we're like, all right, so then do we just like direct our attention somewhere else, or is she now a long shot? So I think if you have any slight interest in a school, shoot them an email. So then you can at least find out after September 1st or at some point, are they interested in me, and do I have other interests somewhere else and I'm not really interested in them? Like, keep your options open always.
I think that's really good advice. Another question that we had received was about summer camps. And, you know, right now I know for us, there's no summer camps through July at this point, but we have a camp through June, but we still have a camp in July. How are you guys with that? We haven't canceled any camps yet or anything like that as far as the ones in July, because we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. But we're also thinking about how do we pivot and maybe hold the camp a little later in the summer. Maybe if some restrictions on recruiting lift in August, we have to wait and see. That's something that is being, you know, kind of kicked around as well with college coaches and the possible bid to, or, you know, plea to the NCAA. How are you guys dealing with camps right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of stuff is just going to continue to get postponed and kind of follow the way each state is kind of uplifting their regulations. So like right now we're canceled through August. I'm sure every school is different. But I think just keeping your options open and making sure you're staying up to date with the kid. Like if you're interested in a Hopkins camp, constantly checking their Instagram account or their website to figure out when the newest date is of their camps. Because I think most people are probably trying to postpone, like canceling. I know in our world, the college coaching world, it's right now we're thinking like, when can we hold these things to give you guys exposure? I think that's where our mindset is at.
Awesome. And I think it's a great opportunity. It's one of the things I've always told my high school kids and my club kids is it's great to get seen at a tournament, but if you really like a school, you need to get to their camp. Like you need to, first of all, find out if you like the coaching style of the coaches, and, you know, they get a chance to kind of see what your attitude is like, what your recovery is like. They get to know you a little bit more and see if you are kind of fit in with the culture of their team and what they're looking for. So I always encourage people, tournaments are great, but if you can get to camp, and I will always plug the Hopkins camp because it's one of our favorite ones to go to because it's so much fun.
Hey, Colleen was my counselor at Hopkins camp.
We all
how crazy is this?
I love that.
I went to Hopkins because I loved Colleen, not CT. I'm just kidding.
That's totally fine. I take that. I don't take that personally. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you,
But
Colleen.
she gives out candy. I mean, how can you turn that down?
And I think along those lines, Sammy brings up such a great point, and Kate, you do too. Like, again, it's going to look a little different. There may be small-sided events, clinics that are held on college campuses, and instead of spending thousands of dollars going to tournaments, maybe that money or that investment goes to, hey, I'm going to check out these 5 schools because this is what's able to be offered right now, something smaller sided, and I can really get some, you know, I can learn something. And like you said, find out about that staff and the campus and the players.
Yeah, to see the campus. And I think, you know, when you get on campus, you get a feeling of if this is a good fit or not. I always, you know, get on that campus and kind of get that vibe and take a look at the dorm room, guys. Check it out. But I'm going to wrap you guys up because we already went over and everybody's hanging on because they're awesome. But I think we're, you know, this is number one. This is number one of definitely 3. And hopefully we can just keep this going. We're going to have some more special guests, although obviously we can't have better special guests than we already had. The first ones have to be the best ones.
Yep.
So all Blue Jays. So I think that's awesome. And, you know, any closing thoughts you want to pass on to our high school kids, or we have some club coaches on here as well. Just something you want to leave them with. We do have a challenge. I think we'll do the challenge next. Let's do the challenge next week.
Okay.
And what do you got? Closing thought.
I think, Sammy, why don't you and Colleen go ahead, and then I'll wrap us up at the end. What are some of your final thoughts?
I think my final thought will just be like, I think that my dad used to always say this, like, this too shall pass. Like, we're going to get through it and we're going to all figure it out and we're all in it together.
Love it.
I mean, we're in this unknown together, and I think just even talking to Sammy and CT, like this conversation has made me happier. So I think having those small conversations that can kind of make your day.
I appreciate you guys both so much. Thanks. And, you know, Sammy, I'm right there with you. I think kind of final thoughts for me is that you are all of our players and club coaches and college coaches. this is going to work out. We are going to end up having recruits. We're going to have players coming to our schools. We're going to be able to see players. It may be virtually, it may be on a field, but we will all figure this out. And the cool thing about this is nobody's getting a leg up on anybody. We are all in that same storm together, and we're navigating it together. And I think if you can get a little creative, you're going to separate yourself. So I would just encourage everybody to be motivated, kick yourself in the butt, whatever it is you need to do to get yourself going, and take some action, because we're doing the same thing as college coaches. I'm going to reevaluate how we watch film and how we can evaluate players, because I want to get better at that if that's going to be my new reality. So this will work. We will end up having people going to school, going through a recruiting process, being able to be evaluated. It's just going to look a little different, and it won't be as quickly maybe as we all would have hoped.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, if you're struggling, and it's okay if you are, and I think people are taking turns going in and out of struggling, one of the best things that you can do is to pick up a phone or video chat or something, and reach out to someone else and check in on how they're doing. There's something about giving and serving that is very uplifting in yourself. It also gets you out of your head. One of the most dangerous places you can be is inside your head all the time. So reach out. This is the time when teammates need each other. So if you notice that somebody is not responding as much, isn't checking in, you need to go check on them. Don't wait for someone to check on you. If no one's checking on you, it's your turn to go out and check on somebody else. So I think we need to just get outside of ourselves and really be great teammates. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. So thank you guys so much. And we'll, Coach Tucker, I will see you next week for another episode of Awesome.
Yep. And just again, keeping in mind everything right now, they're postponed, they're bumped back, right? So don't think that all is lost. Just realize that things are just going to happen in a little different timeline. They're just bumped back a little bit. So just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. If you had questions after this, you can submit it on the website and we'll put it in for next week. All right.
Awesome.
See you guys later.
Thanks,
you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Larry.
guys.
See you guys.